He brought her roses. She brought home silence. He gave his soul. She gave it away. But what she never saw coming was the version of him that rose from the ashes, with a plan so calm, so cold, it would haunt her for the rest of her life. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's the story of a man reborn. And the revenge? It doesn't come with shouting. It comes with silence, and the kind that burns. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. My name is Nathan Cole. I'm 39, a digital product designer living just outside of Austin, Texas. For almost a decade, I was married to Lena Harrington. People knew her as witty, ambitious, full of fire, the kind of woman who made entrances with laughter and exits with impact. I knew her as my best friend, until one day, she wasn't. See, when love starts to fade, it doesn't happen like in movies, dramatic, fiery, loud. No, it dissolves like sugar in water, slowly, invisibly, until one day, you realize it's all gone, and you're still standing there holding the spoon. Lena and I met working a local tech conference. She ran PR. I was one of the guest panelists. I loved how she challenged everyone, how she didn't shrink around powerful men. That fire is what pulled me in. But it's also what eventually burned through every quiet, tender thing we had. The first signs came softly. She stopped laughing at my jokes. Her hugs got quicker. Her texts got shorter. We'd sit through dinner and speak like coworkers discussing Q4 deadlines. I told myself it was stress. Everyone gets busy. But when she started dressing up more for her girls' nights and marketing dinners and returning later and later without any warmth left in her eyes, I stopped lying to myself. It was a Saturday in late September when it hit hardest. Lena had invited me to a coworker's birthday bash. Well, invited is generous. She casually mentioned it over coffee like it was a dentist appointment. You can come if you want. It's just drinks, nothing fancy. I showed up in a clean navy shirt, the good cologne she used to love, and optimism like armor. She wore a scarlet dress with open shoulders and black heels I hadn't seen in years. When she stepped into the living room, I forgot to breathe. But not because I thought she dressed for me. We arrived. She lit up the room like stage lights. Hugs, cheek kisses, inside jokes. But she never introduced me. Not once. I stood like a misplaced suitcase. Noticed, but never claimed. I tried to engage, to be part of it. I joined small circles. Smiled. Asked questions. But no one looked at me like I mattered. And Lena? She never looked at me at all. Then I saw her laughing with a guy named Cole Parker. Tall, loud, always with a beer in hand. He leaned too close when he talked to her. She didn't back away. She touched his arm as she laughed. A touch I hadn't felt in weeks. I left early that night. Walked the 6 blocks home in silence while she stayed. No text. No call. No guilt. The next day, I asked her gently, "Are we okay?" She shrugged. "You're overthinking again." It wasn't an answer. It was an escape. Things got worse after that party. Lena started sleeping in later, staying out longer. Her phone lived in her pocket like a second spouse. I stopped asking questions, not because I stopped caring, but because I feared the answers. Until one night, a name flashed across her screen while she was in the shower. Cole Parker. A text. "Last night was wild. Still thinking about that laugh of yours. Winky face." I didn't confront her. I took a photo of the message, quietly emailed it to myself, and deleted the notification. That's the moment I became someone else. Not a husband, but an investigator. And silently, methodically, I began collecting evidence. I didn't scream. I didn't accuse. I watched. I learned. For weeks, I tracked the lies she never bothered to hide. Hotel receipts on credit cards. Uber rides to places she never mentioned. A second Instagram account, hidden under a nickname she once used in college. And all the while, I played the part of the husband. Made coffee. Did dishes. Kissed her on the forehead, while wondering how many lies were stored behind that pretty, distracted smile. But I wasn't alone in this silence. Enter Jenna Rowe. We'd met briefly at that same party. One of Lena's quieter colleagues from PR. She was observant, kind-eyed, and didn't seem impressed by all the glam. 2 weeks after the party, she sent me a DM on Instagram. "I hope I'm not crossing a line, but I noticed how Lena treats you. You look like someone holding their breath the whole night." That message, simple, compassionate, broke something open. Not because it was flirty. It wasn't. It was human. Real. We started talking. Slowly. Carefully. She never asked about Lena directly. But the more we spoke, the more I felt like myself again. Not Nathan the husband, not the man quietly bleeding under a smile, but just me. She once wrote, "When people treat you like you're invisible, it doesn't mean you're unworthy. It just means they're blind." That line, I printed it. I taped it to the back of my studio door. Jenna wasn't a replacement. She was a mirror. She helped me see what I'd become, and what I still could be. I didn't fall in love with her, but I began loving myself again. And that, ironically, is when Lena noticed. She'd come home from her outings and find me gone, at the gym, with friends, out sketching at cafes I used to avoid. She started asking questions. Where were you? Out. With who? Myself. And slowly, for the first time in years, I saw fear in her eyes. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear of losing control. The shift between us was no longer subtle. It was a seismic crack that echoed through every moment of silence. Lena noticed, but too late. And I didn't offer explanations. I gave her the same cold, mechanical distance she had given me for years. But the difference was, I wasn't doing it out of neglect. I was doing it with purpose. You see, people think revenge is some explosive, fiery event. But the best kind, the one they never see coming. The one wrapped in patience, delivered with a smile, and sealed with their own actions staring back at them like a mirror. I didn't want to hurt Lena. I wanted her to understand, to feel what it's like to be erased, to be second in a relationship built for two, to be surrounded by people but feel utterly invisible. So I got to work, quietly, methodically. The first step was disentangling myself from the web I had allowed her to spin around me. I moved a portion of our savings into a separate account, one she didn't know about. It was money I had earned through freelancing gigs, consulting, even selling off some of my design templates online. I wasn't stealing. I was preparing. I began scanning documents she never thought I'd look at. Our lease, our insurance policies, her job benefits. I learned more about our financial and legal ties in 3 weeks than I had in the entire marriage. Because when you're planning to disappear cleanly, you don't just pack a bag. You disassemble a life. Meanwhile, Lena's behavior escalated. She became nervous around me, overcompensating. Suddenly, she was offering to cook dinner, asking if I wanted to watch a movie, even suggesting a weekend trip to Santa Fe. But it wasn't love. It was control dressed as guilt. Is this because of that coworker? Jenna, she asked one night, while flipping chicken in a pan like she hadn't neglected me for 2 straight years. I stared at her blankly. Who? She paused. You've been distant. You were distant first, I said. Calm, cold, measured. I just finally accepted it. She didn't reply, just set the spatula down too hard, muttered something about stress at work, and disappeared into the bedroom. That night, I slept on the couch, not because we fought, but because I needed clarity, and lying beside her felt like trying to breathe underwater. Days passed. Then one morning, I got a text from Jenna that burned like ice. I didn't want to say anything, but you deserve to know. Lena's been seeing Cole Parker. Not just recently. It's been months. Attached was a screenshot. Cole and Lena at some rooftop bar downtown. Her hand was on his chest. His hand was on her thigh. Their faces were too close for coworkers. And worse, the date stamp was from 2 months before that party, where she acted like she didn't even know me. That morning, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I smiled. Because that was confirmation. Not of her betrayal. I already knew that. But the green light, I needed to execute what I'd been building all along. I booked a suite at an extended stay hotel under an alias. I backed up all documents, passwords, financials, everything. I gathered evidence. Screenshots, emails, photos, timestamps. Not for the courts. Not for her. But for me. Because there's a difference between knowing the truth and having it written in ink. Then I crafted the final blow. It came in the form of a beautifully designed invitation. Digital. Polished. Sent out to Lena's closest friends, her work colleagues, even a few of her social media followers. It read, "You are cordially invited to witness a truth long overdue. This Sunday, 4 p.m., at the Alabaster Lounge. No gifts. Just presents." It was ambiguous. Purposefully strange. But knowing Lena, her curiosity and ego would drag her there like moth to flame. She'd think it was a surprise party, maybe even a proposal from Cole. Because by now, she convinced herself I was too broken to do anything bold. What she didn't know was this. I was no longer the man who begged for scraps of affection. I was the man who built the stage she'd crumble on. That Sunday, I wore my best charcoal gray blazer. Jenna helped me rent out the private section of the lounge and even set up a slideshow with muted lighting. Subtle, elegant, harmless looking. At 4:07 p.m., Lena walked in, wearing a white coat and a curious smile. Her eyes scanned the crowd, confused to see her coworkers, confused to see me standing at the center with a wireless remote in hand. "What's going on?" she whispered when she reached me. I looked her dead in the eye. "I wanted to show you something. About us." Then I clicked the remote. The screen lit up. The first photo, me and Lena on our wedding day, laughing, pure, young. The second, a shot of her at the office party, ignoring me. The third, her with Cole Parker, his arm draped around her. Then the texts, the receipts, the timeline. A gentle gasp echoed across the room. Whispers followed. Lena's hand flew to her mouth. "Nathan, stop." But I didn't. I clicked one last time, and up came the final slide. Some people lose their partner to death. I lost mine to silence, then deceit. But today I reclaim my peace. The lights came on. I looked at her. Calm. Still. I'm leaving Lena. I'm not angry. I'm free. She stared at me, humiliated, exposed, undone. But I didn't stay to watch the aftermath. I walked out. No applause. No drama. Just the sound of my own footsteps as I stepped back into my life. Alone, but finally whole. The days after the lounge event were surreal. Quiet, yet not the same kind of silence I used to dread. The kind Lena used to weaponize when she didn't want to deal with her guilt. No, this silence was different. This one was mine, and it felt like oxygen. I moved into my suite permanently. I bought new sheets, new mugs. I made eggs how I liked them. I took walks at dawn, listened to jazz on Sundays, started sketching again. I stopped checking my phone for Lena's calls, because I didn't need to. I already knew they'd come, and they did. First, a short message. "Why would you humiliate me like that?" No apology. Just her pride, bleeding. Then another. "Can we talk just once?" Then, "Nathan, please. I didn't mean to hurt you like that." But the thing is, she didn't mean to hurt me. Just not in public. Lena was the kind of person who prided herself on perception. She was okay with making me bleed in private, as long as we smile for photos. The moment I shattered that illusion in front of her circle, that's when she realized what it meant to lose narrative control. But I didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. I had nothing left to say. Her emails were longer, rambling, half apologies wrapped in justifications. She wrote about how she felt trapped, how Cole was just a mistake, how she still believed in the foundation we had. Foundation? You mean the one she lit on fire and danced around while I held the extinguisher? No, Lena didn't want love back. She wanted power. She wanted to rewind the moment the mask slipped. But I wasn't rewinding. I was rebuilding. Jenna and I stayed in touch, but never crossed boundaries. In fact, we didn't even meet in person again for weeks. We just exchanged playlists, shared thoughts, poetry. It was all light, gentle, human. And in those quiet exchanges, I remembered how healing doesn't come from the people who broke you, but from those who see your broken pieces and still speak to you with respect. Meanwhile, Lena was unraveling. I knew through the whispers. My old neighbor texted me once. "Hey man, just saw Lena crying in the parking lot. Everything okay?" Her sister messaged. "She's not herself. She's lost so much weight. She keeps asking about you." Even Cole Parker, yes, that Cole, sent me a cowardly email. "I didn't mean for things to go the way they did. I thought you two were already done." Sorry, bro. I didn't respond to him either. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's peace. It's silence that doesn't beg. It's a life that moves forward while they're stuck replaying the moment they ruined everything. One Friday night, I went back to the art supply store I used to visit before marriage stole my time. The clerk remembered me. "Hey, it's been years," she smiled. "Still sketching. Starting again," I said. She grinned. That's the best part of a blank page. It doesn't care what came before it. That night, I started a new sketch series. Not just architecture or scenery, but people. People who survived things without screaming. Quiet warriors. lonely husbands, brave women, souls who were told they were invisible and rose anyway. One of those portraits was titled The Man at the Lounge. And yes, it looked like me. But healing doesn't mean pretending the past didn't happen. I still had nights where memories came back like ghosts. Nights I missed the idea of Lena. Not the woman she became, but the woman I believed in. I had to grieve that illusion. Let die fully. That's when I started therapy. I walked into that room and told the truth. I love someone who slowly erased me, I said. And I kept handing her the eraser. My therapist, a woman named Margot, just nodded and said, "And now?" I exhaled. I'm holding the pen. It was around week 6 when Jenna texted again. Not the usual playlist or meme. This time it was just 3 words. "You okay, Nathan?" That message hit different. Because it came without expectation. Without guilt. Just care. So I replied, "I think I finally am." And for the first time since this all began, I meant it. That weekend, we met for coffee. Not a date. Just a reconnection. She wore a yellow cardigan and no makeup, and I thought she looked more genuine than anyone I'd seen in years. "I'm glad you showed her the truth," she said. "She showed it to herself," I replied. "I just put a frame around it." She laughed quietly. "Well, I hope someday someone puts you in a frame too. Not to expose you, but to admire you." I didn't fall into her arms. We didn't kiss, but I did smile. A real one. Because sometimes the sweetest moments are the ones that don't need a climax. They just breathe. It was a rainy Sunday morning when I saw her again. Not planned, not scripted, not cinematic. I was walking out of a bookstore near 7th Street, hoodie up, coffee in hand, when Lena stepped out of a bakery just 2 doors down. Her hair was pulled back messily, eyes tired, hoodie far too big for her frame. She looked nothing like the Lena I once knew. Or maybe this was the Lena I never truly saw. She froze the second she saw me. Her lips parted slightly like she wanted to speak, but couldn't find the words. And I just nodded. I could have walked on, but something in me, maybe closure, maybe kindness, maybe just curiosity, stopped. We stood under the overhang outside the shop, the sound of rain bouncing gently off the awning. "Nathan," she whispered. "Lena." She looked down. "You look different." "Peace will do that," I said, not cruelly, just honestly. She gave a broken laugh. "I deserve that." I didn't respond. "I've been seeing a therapist," she added, "trying to figure out how I ended up so far from who I used to be." I nodded again. "That's good." A pause. A silence heavy with the weight of all the words we'd never said. "I lied to myself for a long time," she continued. "I told myself you'd always be there, that I could ignore you and you'd still stay." Another pause. "That you were boring, because you were safe." And I confused danger for passion. This time, I looked at her, really looked. Not with anger, not with longing, just as someone who had survived her. "I used to blame myself," I said softly, "for not being exciting enough, for not keeping your attention." Lena flinched. "But I've learned something since then. Some people don't want love, they want chaos. Because love demands presence, and chaos only needs attention." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know, I was awful. You were lost," I corrected. "And I stayed too long in your storm." She took a shaky breath. "Do you hate me?" I considered that for a moment. "No," I said. "Hating you would still mean you mattered." That hurt her, I could tell. But it was the truth. And in a way, maybe she needed it. Lena reached into her bag, pulled out a small envelope, and handed it to me. "What's this?" "My final apology. Written, not because I want you back, but because I want to let go the right way." I didn't open it. "Not there." "Thank you," I said, "for finally giving me something honest." Another long pause. Rain fell softly between us. "Are you seeing anyone?" she asked. I smiled faintly. "No, but I'm finally seeing myself. And that's a start." Lena nodded. And for the first time in years, she didn't have a comeback. She just said, "Goodbye, Nathan." And I watched her walk away, not like a woman defeated, but like one who finally saw the wreckage behind her. I didn't read the letter until 3 days later. It was handwritten, raw, vulnerable, no excuses. She spoke of her childhood, her insecurities, the way validation had always been her addiction. She admitted that Cole was never love, just an escape hatched from her own reflection. She thanked me for my patience. She apologized for my scars. She ended with, You were my calm sea, and I brought storms. If you find someone who holds you the way I never did, I hope you let them. Because someone like you deserves to be seen. Every day, I folded the letter gently, placed it in a drawer, not to dwell on, but to remind myself how far I'd come. Months passed. Seasons changed. Jenna and I reconnected one spring afternoon over iced coffee and indie music. We talked like friends who had lived lifetimes between conversations. There were no declarations of love, no promises, just presence. Do you still sketch? She asked. Every morning, I said. And I do. Because now, my mornings are mine.